Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome back to our Zoom Daily with Rabbi Shlomo Schwartz to a realistic map of meaning. We're going through the laws of the charity and vows, beautiful material. So let's just jump in, see how the rabbi's doing. Shalom, Rabbi Schwartz. We hope all's well with you there today, and we're going to turn the class over to you.
Your prayers work. I'm doing fine. Thank you very much. And shalom to you and everybody out there. And I'm going to share the screen here to this. We are up to paragraph 9 in chapter 8. And I'll just erase my marker here. Okay. And move this over. A Jew is forbidden to publicly take charity from an idol worshiper. However, he's a poor guy, but shouldn't take it publicly from there because we have to look after our own. And this guy is sort of the enemy. However, if he cannot sustain himself through the charity available from Jews, and he is unable to obtain the idol worshippers' charity discreetly, because he could take it, you don't have to worry as long as it's not public, then it is permitted to take it public. In addition, should a king or high official of the idol worshippers send money to the Jewish community for the purposes of charity, then, in the interest of peace, it should not be returned. Instead, it should be accepted and then dispersed to the poor among the idol worshippers secretly, so that the king will not hear of it. So, the idea is the scenario would be that we're here, there's a king in a far off country, and his army is taking control of the country and so on. So we give him homage. We're not going to fight, and he wants to keep the peace himself, so he sends a gift, and so we're very polite. It's all diplomacy, polite, accepted, but on the side, it's not for us. We have to rely on God and ourselves, and so we'll give it to there's going to be poor idol worshippers around us, so we'll give it to them. But and that'll be the way we deal with it. So this comes from Talmud section in Bava Basra, which is in Schwartz. And Ifra Hormuz, who was the mother of King Shapur, sent 400 dinarim, that was a coin, dinars, to Rabbi Ami, but he would not accept them. She then sent them to Rabbi, and he accepted them in order not to offend the government. When Rabbi Ami heard that he was indignant, he said, "Does he not hold with the verse, when the boughs thereof are withered, they shall be broken off. The women shall come and set them on fire," which is a verse in Isaiah, and was, I don't know the context there, but it was apparently saying that you shouldn't do that. So Rabbi defended himself on the ground that he wished not to offend the government. Was not Rabbi Ami also anxious not to offend the government? So of course he was not willing to offend the government, but he was angry because he ought to have distributed the money to the non-Jewish poor. So it wasn't so much he was angry with the rabbi, with the second guy for having accepted the money, but he didn't hear there was distributed. Yeah, but didn't Rabbi distribute to the non-Jewish poor? But that's what he did. So what would he get indignant about? So the Gemara answers the reason Rabbi Ami was indignant was he had not been fully informed. So everybody did the right thing. It's just that he hadn't heard about it, and so he was ready to take offense, because which is the right thing. We studied something together in the book that you have to criticize when the criticism is warranted. When you think that people have acted wrongly, you have to speak up. Let them know people are watching. That you can't just do whatever you like, and that is a tremendous benefit to society, that people will stop. They'll shame you into doing the right thing. That's the easiest way to get people to behave. Okay. Rav Nachman said this is in Sanhedrin, which is the tractate dealing with the court, how it operates. And Rav Nachman said in that tractate, those who accept charity from Gentiles are incompetent as witnesses. So he's talking about court matters. So who can you accept as witnesses? Provided, however, that they accept it publicly, but not if they accept it in private. Then they're okay for witnesses. And even if publicly accepted, the law is applicable only if, when it was possible for them to obtain it privately, they yet degraded themselves by open acceptance. But where private receipt is impossible, then public acceptance is vitally necessary. because you don't want to offend the givers. So to this, those are the Talmudic sections. The Shulchan Aruch said, it is forbidden for a Jew to publicly take charity from an idol worshiper. Only if he is unable to live off the charity from Jews, he cannot take it discreetly. Is it then permitted? Should a non-Jewish king or government official send money for charity to the Jews, then it's not returned to him in the interest of harmony in the land. Instead, it is accepted and then given to non-Jewish paupers secretly, so that the king does not hear of it. Exactly like Rambam said. Ramah said, others say that the funds should be used for the purpose indicated by the ruler. This pertains specifically to a monetary gift to charity. But if an article is gifted to a synagogue, it is accepted from them, though not from an apostate. So if the non-Jew Jewish king would send in a gift, let's say he wants a chandelier for the synagogue, or something else that adorns the synagogue. So he sent an article, you can't really turn it down. It's gonna, he's gonna find out whether it's there or not. So you have to accept it graciously. But if it's from an apostate, someone who's openly opposed to Judaism, then he's laughing at you. So you can't accept that. Now I see that I have forgotten to reorganize this. The way I said, in this chapter, I wanted to do the notes first, and after that now. So just forgive me here while I move that around. There it is. X out, and then up there, and up there. Let's bring it up. So it should come here. Okay, now to the notes. So the notes are, although the commentaries quote Talmudic references in support of each of the above cases, which is what the Rambam listed, where when an idol worshiper gives or the king gives and everything like that. So we saw that the Talmud, that's all taken from the Talmud. No verse appears in support. There's no verses from the Torah or the prophets telling you what to do. It's just is what they did. So my position is that by Rambam's positioning of these cases immediately after the case in the previous paragraph, perhaps he means to imply that Jews themselves, both singly and communally, represent a temple of the Lord. As such, it is forbidden to allow the appearance that foreigners were necessary to sustain a temple of the Lord. And so what was that? That was in the previous paragraph where we were talking about making a gift to the temple fund. So there was a special stricture about that the temple definitely has to be a work by the Jews. That's our job. And so somebody out of ignorance wants to make a donation there, so we have to not aggravate the situation. So we have to act in a certain way. So that was the word temple. So here, he's following up with that in a similar way here. And then note B is from Rambam in his section on laws of kings, chapter 10, paragraph 10. It is clear that the law stated here regarding the acceptance of donations from non-Jews applies only to idolaters. However, a regular non-Jew makes a donation to charity out of desire to obey a divine commandment, may do so, and the funds should be devoted to the welfare of the Jewish poor. So that was, and Dan and I are more familiar. We studied that a little more in detail, and just I had to look this up way back when. Okay, so this was all we already read. So now we're in paragraph 10. The act of redeeming captives takes precedence over the need to provide the poor with food and clothing. And then, listen carefully. You've got people that are in captivity, so you don't know what's happening to them. You have people in front of you that need food and clothing. That's pretty basic necessities. But the captives take precedence because they're in danger. In fact, there's no commandment as great as the redemption of captives, because the captive falls into the class of the hungry, the thirsty, and the naked. Furthermore, he stands in peril of his life. So wherever you got in front of you, this guy's got to be worse. One who averts his eyes from participating in the redemption of the captives transgresses the verse, do not harden your heart, nor retract your hand. That's Deuteronomy 15:7. And the verse, do not stand idly by the lifeblood of your neighbor, Leviticus 19:16. And the verse, do not allow him to fall under the burden before your eyes, Leviticus 28:53. Moreover, he has not fulfilled the commandment contained in the verse, you shall surely open your hand to him. Also, the commandment contained in the verse, and your brother shall have sustenance among you, Leviticus 25:36, and the verse, and you shall love your brother as dearly as yourself, Leviticus 19:18. And you shall save those taken to die, which is from Proverbs, and many others such as these. Indeed, there is no commandment as far reaching as the one to redeem captives. So, so that is that's the Rambam here on, and he's listing again all the verses that pertain to this. And so again, I forgot to move the notes up, so I'm going to take care of that now. Notes. So Rambam argues or states that since the captive is not only a bona fide pauper, but is also in peril of his life, therefore there's no greater commandment. Basically, that's what he says. Since the act of charity has not previously been established as more important than any other commandment, the argument cannot rest on the status of the commandment to give charity. Rather, it must rest on the established priority of the commandment to preserve life. Thus, charity must be viewed as the context rather than the subject of the discussion. However, by association, the implication is that the act of charity is a form of preserving life. So, in other words, why is he talking about this over here? Not because of the direct command of charity. It's just the context. Since he was talking about charity, so he brings in where the biggest act is, because you also deal not only with. So, in other words, charity. What I'm trying to get at is charity is defined as using your financial resources to fix the lack of somebody else. Here, it's a much more serious need, preserving life. And so he just wants to talk about it in this context. Second note is, what is the significant difference between the two phrases? The first, he said there is no greater commandment, found near the beginning of the paragraph. And the second, there is no commandment as far reaching, stated at the end of the paragraph. Okay? Here we hear no commandment as far reaching. Indeed, there's no commandment as far reaching. But over here he said, takes precedent over the need to provide. There's no commandment as great as the redemption. So, and the Rambam, we consider the Rambam to have been very careful with his words. So, if we see a double phrase or an extra thing stated that didn't fit in, we look for a reason why he put it in there when he was trying to say something else that we missed, and so on. We're not just going to let it slip by our eyes. So, I've asked this question. And then I say, surely Rambam is not simply repeating himself. That's a foregone conclusion. It may be there that there is no greater reward than the one for this commandment, and there's also no commandment that requires an effort that is more far-reaching than this one. So that's two different things. One is that the reward is going to be great, nothing like it. But there's also, even if the reward wasn't there, but you have a mitzvah, you have a command, and the effort might be the most you'll ever have to do, but you got to do it. So maybe that's what's going on. But then, how should this be understood in conjunction with the statement that the commandment to learn Torah is weighed against all the other commandments? So this is another famous dictum, and it's repeated every morning in the services that there's no greater commandment than the study of the Torah. That's the gaining of wisdom, because really that's what humanity is all about, is that we can understand, that we can learn things, and become wise in our minds, which is, in the image of God. That's the image of God. You're able to create things with your wisdom. So it's weighed against all the other commandments. How do you reconcile that statement with the one about charity? I don't know. Number C, the second part of paragraph M seems to repeat to a large extent the message contained in chapter 7, paragraphs 1 to 3. We quoted all the verses and so on. Perhaps M repeats it all here to imply that the obligation to participate in the redemption of captives holds even when the normal limits of tithing have already been surpassed, which is probably the case, because in paragraph chapter 7, that was the main chapter on the main duties of charity, and he quoted all the verses, and he told us the broad extent what you have to fix. But now he's repeating it all, because what if your charity fund is depleted? We said you only have to give charity up to a certain amount. Yeah, that's for charity, but to save a life, that requires more. It's a bigger demand. Okay, I've made this Talmud small because it's sort of, this is the source and it's repeating it. But here's some extra in here in the Shulchan Aruch. 252.01. The redemption of captives takes precedence, let's say, over the sustaining and clothing of the poor. And there's no greater commandment than the redemption of captives. He said that. Therefore, funds that have been collected for any sacred purpose can be diverted for the redemption of captives, even if they were collected for the building of a synagogue, which is a pretty sacred task. Even if the wood and stones had already been purchased and cut to size, in which case it would be forbidden to sell them for the sake of any other commandment. It is permitted to sell them for the purpose of redeeming captives. However, once the building is done, it's no longer sold for such purposes. Now, the fact that he had to spell this out gives you a sense of, I think, read between the lines of how often the Jewish community was faced with this serious situation that they were put up,
Yeah, Rabbi, please clarify the redemption of captives. I mean, if you could for me.
The Jews always, conserved their money, tried to build up an asset fund, so they had money, and the non-Jews around them knew that, and they found it the easiest way to finance their lifestyles would be to get money from the Jews. So how do you do that? Well, one way is to just capture a Jew that was walking down the street and hold him for ransom. And we didn't have it wasn't like America today. It's the well, maybe maybe it was like America today with the FBI. If you have a corrupt government, like I'm reading now about from the Durham report. I don't know if you're keeping up with that, but look, if the authorities become corrupt, if they're willing to turn a blind eye or help out their friends in various positions, then you're stuck. You are between a rock and a hard place very much. And the Jewish community often found themselves in that position. So they basically had to ransom their fellow citizens from captivity, because the guys didn't care. They just kill them, just teach a lesson. So it was a touch and go situation many times, and they had to write about it because it came up. So that's it. The Ramah to this writes, nevertheless, should one pledge or sell it to charity, the redemption of captives is not considered intended, and he may not use it for that purpose except with the permission of the community. So if the community was relying on that pledge for something else that they would need, so it's, when you have competing demands, so you go to the people that are in charge and they got to make the decision. This stuff isn't small because we covered it. Okay, paragraph 11. if the people of a city have collected money for the purpose of building a synagogue, and then a commandment presents itself, they should use the money collected to perform the commandment. If they've already purchased stones and beams with which to build the synagogue, they should not sell these items to perform the commandment unless it is a case of redeeming captives. Even if they have already cut the stones and sawed the beams and otherwise prepared them for the building of the synagogue, they should sell the whole for the purpose of redeeming captives, but only for that. However, if they have already completed construction, then they should not sell the synagogue, but rather collect the redemption funds from the congregation. I'm a little lost. I thought we said this already. What's he repeating? I'll see what it is. Let me go to the notes. Here the notes say, Rambam seems to be of the opinion that there is no biblical commandment to build a synagogue for the community, even where none yet exists. You have a Jewish community, doesn't have a synagogue, there's no commandment from the Torah to build one. Consequently, the performance of any commandment that presents itself to the community takes precedence over this community project. However, no commandment other than the redemption of captives, and presumably any other opportunity to save a life, requires the sale of community assets in order to perform it. So any other mitzvah, the community has assets that are working. Let's say they have a bathhouse, and now another commandment presents itself, and the only way to do it is to sell the bathhouse. No, wouldn't do it. Notwithstanding the above, once the synagogue is built, Rambam's opinion seems to be that it should not be sold even for the purpose of redeeming captives. The reason for this might be that a synagogue comes under the umbrella of the prohibition not to destroy our holy places, as we are commanded to destroy the temples of the idol worshippers. So this is a command in the Torah, specifically to the Jewish people as they were entering Israel, and the place was full of idolatrous places. But it works anytime you're in charge. If there's idol worship, there's a command to destroy it, but don't do that to God your Lord. That's the way it's phrased. So that is considered an instruction not to destroy. I mean, forget there's no idol worship. Let's say no idol worship, but you have a synagogue. You're not allowed to dismantle it. It's a holy place for the Jews. You can't tear it down. You've got to replace it. So that became an issue. So in the old country, people didn't move around. You know, like this idea of moving and growing communities and so on. It's very new in human history. So now there's a whole bunch of literature on what to do, like here in Toronto, for example. The Jewish community used to be downtown. They all moved up north to the suburbs, etc. So there's buildings that were abandoned downtown. Can you sell them to? And who is going to buy them? Such big buildings, churches. So and our Chinese church, or could have been a Hindu church. It could be whatever. There was a problem because some of them actually, no question that they're idol worship. The other ones, some people thought it was idol worship. No, it's not. But certainly not as good as a synagogue. It's not. You wouldn't want to attend the service there. So what do? That became an issue. I'm not going to go into the answers, but that's what the thing they're talking about. So the Talmud said, this is what came from the Talmud. Rabina asked Ravashi, suppose money for a synagogue has been collected and is ready for use, is there still a risk of repurposing? He replied, they may be called upon to redeem captives and use it for that purpose. Rabina asked further, suppose the bricks are already piled up and the lathes trimmed and the beams ready, what are we to say? There was a further development. He replied, it can happen that money is suddenly required for the redemption of captives, and they may sell the material for that purpose. If they could do that, he said, they could do the same even if they had already built a synagogue. He answered, no, people do not sell their dwelling places. That far you don't go. So based on that little discussion, that's where Rambam got his rules. Paragraph 12. They, the redeemers of the captives, I guess, are not allowed to redeem captives for more than the normal value of the captives. This is a rabbinic dictum in the interest of public safety. What? Well, how do you establish a marketplace? People know, if it happens with any kind of regularity, this is what you expect. That maybe it's not every day, but 2 years ago it happened, and this is what they asked for, and then 5 years before that, right? Right. I don't say, it's happened. And you know what? And when you read the reports, if you read that, they're asking $100,000, you say, yeah. If you read they're asking for 10 millions, they're not going to get that. It's not, who's going to pay that? Is it a government official or is it a regular guy? Is it a rich guy? And so on. And people start to assess and say, you're not going to get this. And there's the movies about that. I can't raise that kind of money. I can raise this kind of, negotiate. It's a problem. It's a problem. But when they make an exorbitant, out of the world demand, you're not allowed to listen. You say, forget it. It's a rabbinic dictum in the interest of public safety. Prevent such bandits from continually pursuing them for the ransom. Because if they keep paying up, it's not going to be ending. Nor are they allowed to hunt for the captives. So you hear that somebody's captured, let's get a band and go look for them. Because this too is a rabbinic dictum in the interest of public safety to dissuade such bandits from dealing harshly with their captives and from escalating their watchfulness. Look at if you it's public knowledge that there's guys out looking for these people, so then the bandits are going to be very watchful and then have guards and so on, and the captive will be unable to escape. Whereas the other way, they get drunk and so on. Maybe he's going to be able to escape. So these were the considerations they had, and of course it would change today. Depends, with rifles and guns and bombs and whatnot. Who knows? Depending on the victim's mentality and the bandit's mentality and who they are and how vicious they can be, etc. You got to weigh all these factors, which they had to, because this was the current domestic terror is not a new thing.
Well, this goes back to, like I said the other day, if you're a giver, you need to know your limits, because takers don't have any. And yeah.
They'll keep coming. It works so well for them. I'm just going to move this note here. There you go.
Ronald, have you got any questions for the rabbi? We're nearing wrap up.
Yeah.
No, everything's understandable. Thank you.
Excellent.
But
here.
But I think it really comes down to having a proper order when you're raising funds, for sure. If the funds are donated, they should go to what they're donated for, except in the extreme case of redeeming a captive.
I asked your question, Dan. In my first note, M states that a captive should not be redeemed for more than his normal value. How can we say on the normal value? People like, okay, so we'll start there next time, but that'll be what happened here. I see. Yeah, wait.
Did you repaste the notes twice?
Yeah. So this is to be.
All right. So we are taking next week off. So next week, due to some scheduling conflict, so we will be back a week Sunday, which
28th
is what the
28th, May 28th. I looked it up.
The 29th? No.
28th Sunday.
I'm looking at my calendar's at April. Forgive me. Oh. Anyways, okay, so we'll be back on the 28th.
Right.
Sounds good. I'll keep an eye out for the posts, everybody. Thank you very much, Rabbi Schwartz. Beautiful material tonight. I think it's getting into a lot more of the details definitively of the way communities should be functioning when it comes to dealing with donations and making sure that they're dealt with properly. So beautiful material. So yeah, so that'll be our Zoom Daily for today with Rabbi Shlomo Schwartz to our Realistic Map Meeting. We'll be back on the 28th on the Sunday. Till then, wish you all well.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.